In different websites, you might have seen this kind of drag and drop sortable list feature. So in this video, I'm going to show you how can you add the same feature to your website without using any third-party libraries. But with the help of just vanilla JavaScript, we are going to build the same feature. I'm really excited for this project, so are you? Without further ado, let's start. Hello and namaste everyone, this is Jitsaru with Coding Design. Welcome to our channel. If you are new here, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. I do have already created index.html file. Inside that file, if I type exclamation sign and hit that tab button, then you'll get this HTML5 boilerplate. For the title, let's give build drag and drop sortable list with vanilla JavaScript. Now inside the body tag, let's create unordered list. And inside that, let's create list item. And inside that list item, let's create div with class name user. And inside that div, let's create image. For the source, I'm giving images slash. So as you can see in the same folder, I do have folder name images. And inside that folder, there are multiple images. Okay, these are the images. And next to that image, let's create another div with class name info, and inside that div I'm creating h2 heading, and let's give my name. And for the paragraph tag, let's give my role. Okay, and next to that div with class name user, let's create h1 heading with class name icon, and inside that I'm writing ampersand has 10978 semicolon. So this is what you call HTML entity, and with the help of this code, you can get this unique icon. And let's open this index.html file with the help of live server extension. So I was talking about this icon, okay? And also you can see the size of image is really huge. So let's make it a bit smaller. So for that, first of all, let's give the link for our style.css file. And as you can see in the same folder, I do have already created the style.css file. And inside that file, for the universal selector, you can see in order to prevent the browser's default margin and padding, I have given the margin and padding 0, and I have given the box sizing to border box, and also for the font family I'm giving sans serif. Now let's style the image which is inside the class name user. So for the image, let's give the width and height of 4 rem. So this is the exact size that I want. And now let's select this code and let's duplicate it. So now let's change this user's image and some information about the users. So in the browser you can see this is what you get. Now for the image, let's give the border radius of 50% so that we can make the circular shape image something like this. And now let's style the body tag. Now for the body, I'm giving minimum height of 100 VH, that means the viewport height. And for the background color, let's give this blue color with some transparent value. And also let's give display flex, justify content to center, align items to center. So with the help of this code, we are taking the content exactly at the center of our browser. Similarly, now let's style the UL element. For the UL, I'm giving the width of 45 VW. For the background color, let's give the white color. And also for the border radius, I'm giving 1 rem. And you can see that rounded corners around that white box. And also in order to remove that dot, let's give the list style to none. Now it's time to style the list item. So for the li, let's give the display flex, justify content to space between, and also let's give align items to center. And for the cursor, let's give move. Now you can see when you hover, you'll get that move icon. Okay. And also for the list item, let's give the nth child pseudo class, and I'm passing even. So for even list items, I'm giving the background color of that light gray color. Now you can see there is some difference between the background color. Okay, and also there is some problem. As you can see, our content is overflowing. In order to prevent that, for the UL, if I give overflow to hidden, then that problem will be solved. Now let's select this code and let's duplicate it. Now instead of that nth child, let's give, when you hover the list item, let's change that background color to blue color with some transparent value. And also now you can see when you hover, there is no any transition. So for that, for the list item, let's give the transition. For the duration, I'm giving 0.3 second, and for the timing function is similarly, when you hover that list item, let's give the transform scale to 1.03. So now you can see when you hover, you can see there is some smooth transition. And also let's select this code and once more let's duplicate it. Now instead of that hover, let's give class active for that list item, and let's change that background color to green color with some transparent value. And also let's give margin bottom to 0.8 rem. So now if I give that active class for that list item, in the browser you can see you are getting that light green color. Now let's remove this active class from that list item. Later on we'll add this active class for that list item with the help of JavaScript code. Now let's style that div with class name user. For the class user, let's give display flex, align items to center, and also let's give padding of 1 rem. And for the div with class name info, I'm giving margin left of 1 rem. Similarly, for the h2 heading, which is inside the div with class name info, let's give the font size of 1.2 rem. And for the class icon, let's give the padding of 1 rem. So now let's take it to the full screen by pressing F11 key, and you can see this is exactly what you get, and I think it's looking pretty good. Similarly, for the class icon, let's give the transform, and I'm giving rotate to 180 degree. So this is exactly what I want. But now you can see when you drag the element or the list item, we are unable to drag, and it is not allowing us to drag the element. And also now with the help of JavaScript code, we will build that drag and drop sortable list. So for that, first of all, let's create the script.js file and let's link our JavaScript file. So just below the link, let's give script, and for the source, I'm giving script.js file, and for the attribute, I'm giving differ. So now with the help of that differ attribute, now you don't need to give the script tag just above the end of body tag. Okay, now in the script.js file, I'm declaring data variable. So let's copy this code and let's paste it there. So this is the static data. It is not the dynamic data that we are getting. So inside the array, you can see different objects, different key and value. Now we don't need this code. Let's remove this. Let's cut this list item. Okay, we need later on this code, but now it is not necessary because we'll be dynamically generating all the list item with the help of JavaScript code. So first of all, let's create constant variable ul, and I'm assigning document.querySelector. So we are selecting that ul element. Now let's create the function called create list items, and I'm assigning the arrow function. Now we will iterate array data with the help of this for each method, and for the array you can give the data. For the element, let's wrap it inside the bracket, and I'm writing portion comma I. So all these objects that is within the array, that is represented by that portion variable. So let's create the constant variable li, and I'm assigning document.createElement. So we are creating the list item, that is li, and also I'm assigning the attribute. So for that I'm writing li.setAttribute. So we are setting the attribute of list position, and for that I'm giving that I indicates the index. That means you will get something like 0, 1, 2, okay, because the index of array that starts with 0. Similarly, let's give li.innerHTML is equal to backtick, that symbol in your keyboard just above the tab button or next to that number 1, you can get this symbol. So this is what you call the template literals. So with the help of this, it makes easier to deal with the string and the variable. Inside that, let's paste the code that you have cut from that HTML file. You need to remove that li because that li is the list item that we have already created there, as you can see. And now for that image source, instead of that giving string value, we will give the image that we have iterated from that data variable, that means the data array. Now what you can do is that you can write there dollar parenthesis, and as you can see we have iterated that array data. So now we can access that different keys of that object. If you write portion.image, then we can access that image. But as you can see, images, they are inside our images folder, so I have to give their images / dollar parenthesis portion.image. And for the h2 heading, I can give the dollar parenthesis portion.name, and for the role you can give same thing, portion.role inside that dollar parenthesis. This is how it works. And now we have created the list item. Now it's time to append that list item inside that ul element. So now what you can do is that you can write ul.appendChild. So we are appending the list item, create list items. That is the function that we have created, but we didn't call that function. So now at the bottom item, let's invoke that function. Now in the browser you can see all the list items, they are dynamically generated. So this is exactly what you want. By the way, this is data that have given manually, but you can get this data with the help of API that you have generated, with the help of your backend language, with the help of Fetch API or Ajax request. You can give the request to your server and you can get this data. Now let's create another function, listen to events, and we will call this function as soon as our list elements they are created. And inside that listen to events function, let's create the constant variable lists, and I'm assigning ul.querySelector all, and I'm giving li. Why I'm giving their query selector all? I'm giving their all because I want to select all the list items that we have created there. So now it's time to iterate that list items. So for that I'm using for of loop. I'm writing li of lists, and I'm giving their li.draggable is equal to true. So I'm giving their draggable attribute for all the list items so that I can drag the list items. And let's go back to the browser, and now when I drag, okay, it's not working. Let's check it in the console. Okay, we do have the error. Okay, I did mention you that listen to events, that was the function, but I did there some mistake. So instead of that arrow function, let's keep the normal function. And once again, let's go back to the browser, and now you can see when you drag, now you're able to drag the list items. So this is exactly what you want. Now let's keep the different drag events and drop event for the each list items. So I'm writing li.onDragStart. So for now, let's keep the arrow function and let's write console.log drag start, and let's duplicate it for more 3 times. And instead of that drag start event, let's give the drag enter event, and also let's give on drag leave, on drag over, and also once more duplicate this code. And now let's give drop event. Okay, so now let's check in our browser whether these all the events they are triggering or not. So in the browser you can see when I drag start, drag leave, drag enter, drag over, all the elements they are triggered. And once again I want to add another event, drag end event. So once again let's drag the list item, and now you can see all the events they are triggered. But if you have noticed that when I drop the list element, did you see that drag end event is triggered but that drop event that we didn't get? Okay, so it's because that drag over, the event that we have given for that list item, that is preventing from triggering that drop event. So in order to execute that drop event, we need to give there, instead of that console.log, let's remove this code and let's pass the e as event, and let's give e.prevent default. So now with the help of this code, we are preventing that default behavior of drag over event. And once again in the browser, if I drag the element and if I drop, you can see that drop event is triggered. So this is exactly what we want. And when you are listening to the drag start event, at that time let's give the function, and inside that I'm writing this.style.display is equal to none. So now when you drag your list item, you can see that element is hidden, but this is not the exact effect that I want. So if I give the set timeout method and let's give the 0 millisecond, so within that 0 millisecond this code will execute. Okay, so now you can see dragged element is hidden, but still you can see we can drag that element. Whenever you are removing that list item from that ul element, let's keep that same transition code. I'm writing ul.style.height, that is equal to ul.clientHeight minus this.clientHeight plus pixel. This keyword that represents the list item that we have dragged. So okay, that is not the u, that is the ul, and also that is not the method, that is just the property clientHeight. Now once again in the browser, if I drag, okay, now you can see that transition is not applied. But if I drag the second element, okay, now that transition, that effect you can see. So once again let's duplicate this code. So for that ul element at the beginning, if I give the height of that client height only. Now you can see you will get that transition. Okay, when you are listening to that drag enter event, at the time for the list element, let's give the active class. So for that I'm writing list dot class list dot add active. As you can see, for the list item in this style.css file, we have given there some CSS code whenever you are giving that active class for the list items. So now let's copy the same code and let's paste it inside that drag leave event, and instead of adding that active class, we'll remove the active class. So in the browser you can see when I drag and when you drag and take it to the last element of the list item, then you are getting that effect. Otherwise you won't be able to get that effect. So what is wrong with this code? Something is wrong. Okay, before that, for the drag end event, let's give the function, and I'm writing this.style.display is equal to flex. And there is some problem. Let's remove this code. So why we are giving that display flex? In the style.css file, you can see for the list item we have given their display flex, so it is necessary to give that display flex in order to maintain that layout that we have built. So now you can see whenever you are dragging the element, at the time we have given their display none to the list items, and when we are at the end of drag event, at that time we are giving display to flex. So let's look at the browser, and you can see if I drag the element, you can see that element is displayed, but the height of our UL element is decreasing. It's because when that drag event that starts, at that time we are just subtracting the height of that dragged list item. But in order to prevent that, when we just drop the list item at that time, so we can duplicate this code and let's take it to that drop event, and at the time, instead of subtracting the drag list items height, we are adding that drag list items height. So once again in the browser, if I drag the element and if I drop, you can see the height of the UL element that is adjusting accordingly. So when you are changing height of that UL element, at that time there is a smooth transition. So this is the effect that I want. And also let's copy the same prevent default code and let's paste it inside that drop event. But as you can see, when you drag the element, we're not getting that pop-up effect. That means when you drag the element and if you take to that specific list element, I want to change that background color to green, but we are not getting that. So there is some problem. Let me check.
1 hour later.
I did find the problem. So when you are running that for of loop, at that time I didn't initialize that li variable. So let's give their let li, and once again in the browser, if I drag the list element and look at that, so this is the exact effect that I want. But now you can see when you drop, we're not shorting that list. So in order to change that drag element's position, first of all, instead of that constant variable, let's give the let, and I'm using the comma so that I won't use that let keyword multiple times. So let's declare the variable name current position, and also let's create another variable name drop position. So first of all, let's copy that current position variable, and I'm assigning this dot get attribute. So we are getting the attribute in the browser. You can see for the each list element we have given their attribute name list position. So now we will get the same list position attribute, and I am storing that list position's value inside that current position. And also let's copy the same code and let's paste it inside that drop event. And now instead of that current position, let's change that variable to drop position. So now let's see what we are storing inside that current and the drop position. So I'm logging to the console in the browser. When I drag the first list item and drop to that third list item, did you see that? We're getting the exact position of those elements. And if you have noticed there, when you drop the element, still you are getting that light green background color. So in order to remove that, inside the drag in event, let's loop the list items. So I'm writing for let active list of lists, and let's copy this code and let's paste it there. And instead of that li, let's give the active list. So we are removing that active class that we are given for that list items. And now once again in the browser, if I drag and drop the list item, did you see that green background color? It won't be visible. So now as you can see, we are getting the current position and the drop position of that list element. So as soon as you drop the element, I want to change that drag element's position to that drop element's position. So in order to do that, inside the drop event, I'm giving data.splash for the first parameter, which is the start. I'm giving drop position variable for the second parameter, that is the delete count. For that I'm giving 0, so we are not deleting anything from that data array. And for the third parameter, so before that let's comment out this code and let's console.log the data.splash. I'm giving the first parameter to current position. For the second parameter I'm giving 1, so we are deleting the one item from that data array. So in the browser, once again, if I drag and drop, did you see that we'll get the drag elements value inside that array? So in order to access that value, now you have to give the square bracket 0. And once again, if I drag and drop, did you see that we're getting the exact drag elements object, all the properties that we need. So this is exactly what you want. Now we will cut this code and paste it there. So let's uncomment this code. You can see for the starting position I have given their drop position, and for the delete count I'm giving 0. That means we are not deleting anything from this data array. And now I want to give the drag elements position to that drop position. So for the third parameter I'm giving that, I'm replacing that drop position with the drag elements. So in the browser, once again, if you drag and drop the element, now you're getting no any changes, because you can see we have already manipulated that all the values of data array. And you can see when we are calling that create list element function, we are creating all the list element dynamically. So now we need to invoke that same function, that is create list elements function. And also as soon as create list elements function is triggered, at that time I want to remove all the content that is within the UL element. So for that I can write ul.innerHTML is equal to empty string. So once again in the browser, if I drag the list element and drop it there, did you see that? Now we are able to change the position of that drag element and it works for all the list elements. So I think it's looking really cool. So what if you want to give like simple effect? You don't want to give that kind of complicated effect. So for that you don't need this extra codes. So you can comment out these codes. And once again, if I go back to the browser and if I drag the element and drop, did you see that? Now we are able to drag and drop, and with that we are able to sort the list. So you can see this is really simple and everything is working perfectly, and I think it's really beautiful. What do you think? Let me know in the comment box. Like, did you love that complex effect or the simple one? So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did learn something, smash that like button. If you have any kind of queries, let me know in the comment box. Share this video if you think someone needs it. And also, if you haven't already hit that subscribe button and also the notification bell icon. Remember, there is always more to learn, so keep learning.